Press+tv headlines: 4 more American soldiers are killed in attacks across Afghanistan. Iran unveils its first homemade long-range combat drone. And the Arab League says it's deeply concerned about Israel's position on the talks. Greetings and very well welcome to the 9:30 news edition here on Press+tv from Tehran. 4 U.S. soldiers have been killed in Afghanistan. 2 American soldiers died in a gun battle with Taliban militants in the east of the country. 2 more U.S. troops were killed in separate incidents in the south. The deaths bring to 294 the number of American soldiers killed in Afghanistan this year. At least 451 U.S.-led foreign troops have lost their lives so far in 2010. The Taliban have stepped up their attacks against U.S.-led troops across Afghanistan over the past 4 years. This comes despite regular reinforcement of foreign forces in the war-torn country. An airstrike by U.S.-led foreign forces in Afghanistan has killed at least 4 policemen.
It happened in northern Juzjan province of this country, where heavy clashes first erupted between the Afghan police officers and the Taliban militants. The fighting between the Taliban and Afghan police officers lasted for about an hour, and after the fighting, the Afghan police officers were heading to their base, but they couldn't reach to their base. They were hit by a NATO airstrike. This has been reported by Afghan authorities from northern Afghanistan. They strongly condemned this attack and said that 4 Afghan police officers were killed and about 13 others were seriously wounded by the NATO airstrike. NATO headquarters here in Kabul confirmed the deaths.
NATO says it's investigating the incident. This is not the first time that U.S.-led airstrikes bombed the positions of Afghan forces. There have been many similar incidents in which large numbers of Afghan forces have been killed in NATO attacks over the past years. The military alliance says the so-called friendly fire incidents are inevitable. Kabul has repeatedly condemned and called for an end to NATO attacks on Afghan civilians and security forces. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says the Pentagon could be behind a rape accusation against them. The allegations come amid a standoff with Washington over the WikiLeaks publication of secret Afghan war documents. Assange has told the Swedish newspaper Aftonbladet that he had been earlier warned that groups such as the Pentagon would use any means to destroy his whistleblower website. On Saturday, Swedish prosecutors issued an arrest warrant for Assange over a rape allegation, but it was withdrawn hours later. Now, the WikiLeaks founder says despite the lifting of his warrant, his enemies will still use the claim to damage his website. Assange has promised to publish more secret documents about the war in the coming weeks. The Islamic Republic of Iran has unveiled its first domestically made long-range combat drone, the Karrar.
The Karrar drone has a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. It's capable of carrying out bombing missions against ground targets. Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad called the Karrar unmanned combat air vehicle, or UCAV, a messenger of peace during the unveiling ceremony.
این جت قبل از اینکه سفیر مرگ برای دشمنان بشریت باشد، پیام‌آور عزت و کرامت انسانی و نجات بشریت است. پیام اصلی صلح و دوستی است. پیام اصلی است جلوگیری از هر نوع درگیری است که منجر به کشته شدن بشود.
The combat drone is the latest in a series of advanced domestically built defense systems that Iran has put on show to celebrate its annual Defense Industry Day. They include the Qadir submarine, the Sina frigate, and the Qiyam surface-to-surface missile. Also back in April, Iran test-fired several domestically built missiles, including land-to-sea and sea-to-sea projectiles during naval exercises in the Persian Gulf. The achievements come despite decades of US-sponsored sanctions against Iran. Iran says its defense capabilities serve peace and stability in the region.
به جایی برسیم که ایران چتر دفاعی همه ملت‌های آزاده در برابر مستکبران باشد.
Arab states are concerned about Israel's position on peace talks with the Palestinian Authority due to be held in Washington next month. The Arab League says it fears Tel Aviv's insistence on the talks without preconditions will lead to fruitless negotiations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says only recognition and security of Israel can lead to lasting peace in the Middle East. The Palestinian Authority officials have agreed to meet with Israelis at Washington summit on September the 2nd. The Palestinian Authority insists dialogue should lead to the creation of their independent state. They want an Israeli freeze and settlement activity for the talks to resume. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made it clear there should be no preconditions for the U.S. revived negotiations. Besieged Gazans are suffering from frequent power cuts as the city's only power plant has run out of fuel. The diesel fuel for the power plant is supplied by Ramallah. Our correspondent reports from Gaza.
Unprecedented heat wave and frequent power cuts for up to 10 hours a day have put the governments in Ramallah and Gaza at loggerheads, each one blaming the other for the power crisis in the besieged Gaza. The ongoing conditions have left angry reactions among people, especially during the holy month of Ramadan.
I blame both Hamas and the Palestinian Authority for the crisis. They should find a solution instead of blaming each other. It's very hot nowadays and it's not affordable for everyone to buy electrical generator for their homes.
The power problem has affected all aspects of life and spoiled the joy of the holy fasting month of Ramadan. I personally blame the Israeli occupiers because they are keeping us under tight siege, which led to unemployment that makes it difficult for people to pay for the utility bill.
The fuel for Gaza's power plant is supplied by the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah, but they are reluctant to increase shipments since Gaza lacks the funds to pay for it. Meanwhile, Gaza energy officials say the quantity of industrial diesel that Israel allowed into the strip recently was only sufficient to power one generator out of 3 at Gaza's only power plant. They have warned that this amount will only last a few days. In an attempt to solve the problem, Gaza's government has suggested collecting utility bills to provide funds for the Palestinian Authority to increase the flow of industrial diesel into the strip.
The proposed plan is to deduct $45 from Hamas and PA civil servants residing in Gaza whose salaries are above $400 in order to cover fuel costs. Should the suggestion be implemented in early September, the fuel crisis will be solved.
The Palestinian Authority announced it would be implementing a salary deduction from September for all employed Gaza residents who receive their salaries from the West Bank government and receive electricity from the company. As official figures in Gaza show, the ongoing Israeli siege of the enclave has left about 50% of the Gazans unemployed. This means that collecting enough money to keep the power plant fueled is nearly impossible. Yusuf Al-Halo, Press+tv, Gaza.
This is Press+tv World News, and these are the headlines.